In the serene Australian countryside of Winchelsea, nestled between Melbourne and Geelong, tragedy struck on Father's Day in 2005, a tragedy so haunting, so deliberate, that it would carve its place in the annals of true crime history. It was the day Robert Donald William Farquharson, a man described by those who knew him as unassuming and reserved, crossed the unfathomable line into horror. Robert Farquharson was a father to three young boys, Jai, Tyler and Bailey, aged 10, 7 and 2 respectively. To outsiders he appeared as a doting father, but beneath the surface lay layers of bitterness and anger. His marriage to Cindy Gambino had crumbled, ending in separation just a year earlier. Cindy had moved on, beginning a relationship with another man. For Farquharson, the separation wasn't merely an end to a relationship, it was an unbearable blow to his pride and his sense of control. Farquharson reportedly felt that Cindy had humiliated him, replacing him as both a partner and, in his mind, a father figure to their boys. Friends noted his quiet but growing resentment. He spoke bitterly of how the divorce had upended his life, how Cindy's new partner had seemingly taken his place. What unfolded next would become an act of vengeance so cold-blooded that it would shock an entire nation. The night of September 4th, 2005, was supposed to be a joyous occasion. It was Father's Day, and Farquharson had spent it with his boys, enjoying an afternoon at a local carnival. Witnesses saw a seemingly happy family. The boys laughed and played, completely unaware that their father harbored sinister intentions. As the evening approached, Farquharson began the drive back to Cindy's home. The atmosphere in the car was likely one of contentment. The boys, tired from their day of fun, sat in the back seat as the car glided through the rural roads of Winchelsea. But somewhere on that journey, Farquharson veered off the path of a father's duty and into the abyss of his own darkness. Near a dam along the Prince's Highway, Farquharson deliberately steered his car off the road. Witnesses later recalled seeing his vehicle suddenly swerve, plunge through a wire fence, and disappear into the dark, cold waters of the dam. As the car began to sink, Farquharson exited the vehicle, leaving his three young sons trapped inside. Witnesses driving along the highway saw him emerge from the water, seemingly unscathed. When questioned by passers-by who stopped to help, Farquharson claimed he had suffered a coughing fit, causing him to black out and lose control of the car. Yet his actions in the moments that followed raised questions. Farquharson made no immediate attempt to rescue his sons or alert emergency services. Instead, he flagged down a passing motorist, a man named Greg King, and requested a ride back to Cindy's house. He calmly explained the incident to King, saying, "I've had an accident. I need to go back to Cindy's." It wasn't until they arrived at Cindy Gambino's home that the gravity of the situation became clear. As Farquharson told Cindy what had happened, she screamed in disbelief. "The boys are in the car," she cried, her voice piercing the night. Emergency services rushed to the scene, but it was too late. The car had sunk deep into the dam, and by the time divers retrieved it, all three boys were dead. Their tiny bodies, still strapped into their seats, were a heart-wrenching sight. Forensic analysis revealed that the car windows were closed, and the doors were locked, making escape virtually impossible. The boys had likely died within minutes, trapped in a watery tomb. Initially, Farquharson maintained his story of a coughing fit and accidental crash, but investigators quickly found inconsistencies in his account. Forensic experts examined the crash site and determined that the swerve off the road was deliberate. There were no skid marks, no evidence of braking, only the clear intent to drive into the dam. Suspicion mounted when detectives interviewed Farquharson's close friend, Greg Simons. Simons revealed a chilling conversation he had with Farquharson months before the incident. Farquharson had allegedly told him, "If Cindy ever takes the kids away from me, I'll make her pay. She'll live the rest of her life without her kids." This damning statement painted a picture of premeditation, a calculated act of revenge aimed at inflicting the ultimate pain on Cindy Gambino. In 2007, Robert Farquharson stood trial for the murders of his three sons. The prosecution argued that Farquharson had intentionally driven into the dam to punish Cindy. They pointed to the lack of evidence supporting his claim of a coughing fit and highlighted his disturbing conversation with Greg Simons. The defense countered, portraying Farquharson as a loving father who had suffered an unfortunate accident. They argued that he would never intentionally harm his children, suggesting instead that his medical condition, a coughing-induced blackout, was to blame. But the jury was unconvinced. After weeks of harrowing testimony and emotional outbursts, Farquharson was found guilty on 3 counts of murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Cindy Gambino, devastated by the loss of her children, initially supported Farquharson, believing his version of events. But as the evidence mounted, she faced an agonizing reality: the man she had once loved had committed an unspeakable act of cruelty. Cindy became an advocate for her boys, ensuring their memories were preserved and that their deaths served as a cautionary tale. Her strength in the face of unimaginable loss inspired many, but the scars of that night would remain with her forever. Robert Farquharson's actions on that fateful night continue to resonate as one of Australia's most chilling true crime stories. The calculated nature of his crime, the betrayal of his paternal duty, and the incomprehensible loss of 3 innocent lives left an indelible mark on all who heard the tale. Farquharson remains in prison, his name synonymous with the darkest depths of human vengeance. The dam where the tragedy unfolded stands as a silent witness to his heinous act, a place forever haunted by the echoes of lives cut tragically short. For the Gambino family, the pain is eternal, but so is the love they hold for Jai, Tyler, and Bailey. In their memory, Cindy Gambino reminds the world of the fragility of life and the need to cherish every moment with those we hold dear. The Farquharson case wasn't just a personal tragedy, it struck a nerve in the collective consciousness of Australia. How could a father commit such an unspeakable act against his own children? The trial and subsequent media coverage ignited conversations about mental health, the aftermath of divorce, and the hidden dangers of unchecked resentment. Experts weighed in, attempting to dissect Farquharson's psyche. Psychologists suggested that his actions stemmed from a toxic blend of narcissistic tendencies and a deep-seated need for revenge. To Farquharson, the boys were not just his children, they were symbols of his perceived loss of power and control over his life. This perception, coupled with his bitterness towards Cindy, led him to commit an act of vengeance that would eternally define him. Support groups and charities emerged in the wake of the tragedy, focusing on family violence and its broader implications. The case became a cautionary tale about the dangers of unresolved anger and the devastating ripple effects of domestic conflict. Inside Barwon Prison, one of Victoria's most secure facilities, Farquharson remains a divisive figure. Inmates reportedly view him with contempt, as crimes against children often place perpetrators at the bottom of the prison hierarchy. Farquharson has largely kept to himself, avoiding interactions with other prisoners and adhering strictly to the prison's rules. Some reports suggest that he spends most of his days in solitary reflection, maintaining his innocence despite the overwhelming evidence against him. Farquharson has made several attempts to appeal his conviction, each time arguing that the crash was a tragic accident, not a deliberate act of murder. His legal team has leaned heavily on the coughing fit theory, despite it being dismissed in the original trial. However, each appeal has been rejected, further cementing the public's view of his guilt. Cindy Gambino's life after the tragedy was one of unimaginable grief, but also of remarkable resilience. She dedicated herself to ensuring her son's memories lived on, speaking publicly about the devastating impact of domestic violence and the need for systemic change. In the years following the murders, Cindy advocated for better support systems for families going through separation and divorce. She worked closely with organizations focused on mental health and domestic abuse, hoping to prevent similar tragedies from occurring. In her speeches, Cindy often shared stories of her sons, their laughter, their dreams, their innocence, turning their short lives into a powerful call to action. Despite her pain, she found purpose in helping others, believing that her boy's legacy could inspire change. Cindy's journey was not without its struggles. She faced public scrutiny, media intrusion, and the ongoing legal battles surrounding Farquharson's appeals. Yet through it all, she remained steadfast, a testament to the strength of a mother's love. The Farquharson case led to several changes in Australian law enforcement and social services. Police and first responders received additional training to better handle cases involving family violence and potential mental health crises. The legal system also began to pay closer attention to the psychological state of individuals involved in custody disputes, aiming to identify warning signs of potential harm. Educational campaigns were launched to raise awareness about the dangers of parental alienation and the importance of co-parenting in the wake of separation. The case served as a grim reminder of the need for vigilance and support in high-conflict family situations. The dam in Winchelsea became an unintended memorial, drawing visitors who wished to pay their respects to Jai, Tyler, and Bailey. Locals placed flowers, toys, and handwritten notes along the roadside, creating a shrine of love and sorrow. The site, though a place of tragedy, also became a symbol of the community's compassion and unity. Cindy herself visited the dam several times, leaving tokens of remembrance for her boys. For her, the visits were a way to connect with her sons, to ensure they were never forgotten. As the years passed, the Farquharson case became a part of Australia's true crime lore, its chilling details retold in books, documentaries, and podcasts. Each retelling served as a reminder of the fragility of family dynamics and the devastating consequences of unresolved anger. Robert Farquharson remains in prison, a figure of infamy and condemnation. But the true legacy of this case lies not in his actions, but in the memories of Jai, Tyler, and Bailey, their laughter, their innocence, and the love they shared with their mother. For Cindy Gambino and countless others touched by this tragedy, the hope is that such pain can be prevented in the future, and that every child will be shielded from the darkness that claimed 3 young lives on that fateful Father's Day.